to our Women's Day celebration being organized by Gyan Vista. We already have a wonderful session with Sheetal and her panelists at 4:30 talking about self-doubt to self-worth and the journey that you undertake in order to reach there. And the second session that we are having today is about singlehood and women. Before we get to the program, I would just like to briefly introduce our company to you. So, Gyan Vista was founded in 23 with the idea that there is a gap between the traditional education that we have been giving, given the fact that we all are coming from the field of education. We know the gaps that exist, and that some of the essential skills are not imparted to the students at school levels, college levels, or even at corporate levels. And that is where we have come in with an aim to enhance these skill sets and other basic growth sets that can help people to achieve both personal and professional growth, as well as be empathetic human beings, because that's one of the things that we find the current education system incapable of being imparting to students: the empathy and the idea of community. So Gyan Vista's programs are aimed at building a healthier and empathetic community for everyone. So all our programs generally are built at a 360-degree level. So when we give it to the schools, we give it to the parents, the students, the teachers, and the administrative staff also, so that everyone is involved in the whole process and nobody is left out. So that is the kind of holistic workshops and other things that we have been offering to different sections of the society. So our vision is basically to equip individuals with the essential skills that they need to thrive at social level, at professional level, as well as at personal level. And like I said, the idea is to do it with empathy and idea of growth. The mission is to bridge the gap between, we are not talking about getting a job. We are talking about essential skills of becoming a complete person, a better human being. That is what we are trying to fill out in these workshops that we are conducting for schools, colleges, as well as for corporate sectors. This is our core team. All the three of us are the partners of this organization. And Yash is a former student of mine, and he is the one, person who has actually thought of this entire organization and put it into, actually made the dream come true. And he pushed me also to be a part of it. Neelu has been a freelance sex educator, and she has also been a part of this organization because of the same reason that we all have, that we need better empathetic society. And these are our consultants. We have consultants coming from different fields and life skills, science experts, psychologists, educationists, and including security. Retired Chakradari sir is especially good at it. So digital security and all of this are a part of what we are offering to schools and colleges. And we have also legal advisors, as well as Deepa herself is a part of our consultants. And these are our clients. Generally, we aim at schools, colleges, and corporates, and we offer different kinds of workshops which can be customized according to the need of the schools and colleges or even the corporates, as well as it can be as small as doing only one-day workshop, or it could be a year-long program that they could take with us. These are some of the current works that we are carrying out. One is an ongoing one-year-long program with Earth Universal School in Gujarat. And we are doing an entire POSH unit with Think Healthy, where we have already trained or we have conducted sessions for the staff. Now we are helping them put ICC in place. And these are our major offerings. Like I said, we have a whole lot of plethora of workshops that we offer. And now getting down to the main program for the day, we're going to talk about something that is not generally spoken about in terms of women, that is singlehood. Singlehood is still a stigmatized topic in Indian society, especially. It's not just stigmatized for women, it's even stigmatized for men. Even men staying single is considered to be not a great thing. And generally, there's a lot of questions around it. And there is a lot of things that happen with, there is a lot of things that are questioned. Just give me a second, please. Sorry, my cat has come in between. So, in taking up a topic like this, the idea is that to explore the often overlooked narrative, the lives of single women who are are leading fulfilling lives, but have constantly been looked at as somebody who has probably not had a fulfilling life because they have not married or they didn't find the right partner. So we are looking today, the idea is to talk to women who are in their 40s who have already maneuvered this entire idea of singlehood and taken on the patriarchal society and successfully lived their lives for at least 2 decades, because 20 onwards you're supposed to be of marriageable age. It's much younger now. But the idea is that they're already in their 40s and they have been living a very thriving life. And enough number of youngsters are today looking at singlehood as an option. And the idea is that if these women share their stories, talk to us about how did they maneuver it, it might give insights and also maybe inspire a few more women to use this as a choice if that is exactly what they want in life. Because this is a choice and not something that is enforced on women. That's the idea behind having these conversations. And that's why we have very, very wonderful three panelists who graciously agreed to come to the session and share their ideas. I'll introduce the first person, that is Dr. Anuya Bhatti, a passionate academic and of course a researcher also. She has done her PhD from University of Mumbai, and she conducted field work across Maharashtra, delving into the complexities of police reservations for women. Her research not only sheds light on the policies undercurrents, but also real world implications. Having spent over a decade teaching political science at Mitibai College, Dr. Bhatti is a dedicated educator with a keen eye for social structures and governance. An avid reader and scholar, she has contributed significantly to the research through her published papers too. And today, she promises also contribute to this ongoing discussion on singlehood and women. The next person we have is Dr. Aparna Phadke, who is a geographer with a purpose. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Geography, whose works extend beyond the classroom. Passionate about gender, development studies, urban issues, and climate change, she brings a multifaceted perspective to her research and teaching. Dr. Phadke is also deeply committed to environmental conservation and actively engages with children at Jilla Parishad schools, shaping young minds to be conscious of the world around them. We are going to also hear from her and her crucial inputs on this matter today. She is also a person who has chosen singlehood by choice. Next is Ms. Deepa Jaydev, she is a true polymath because she has seamlessly woven together philosophy, healing, and storytelling in her journey. A former assistant professor of philosophy at Mitibai College, she has not only contributed to academia through published papers and international conferences, but also has expanded her work into holistic well-being. A Reiki master, career counselor, yoga teacher, and storyteller, she approaches knowledge from multi-dimensions, blending the intellectual with the intuitive. Her presence on this panel adds a deeply reflective and holistic perspective to our discussion today. Now, each of these panelists bring their unique perspectives to the table, making this conversation both insightful and inspiring. Let's get on to our first question for all the three panelists. Can you share your journey of singlehood and what led you to embrace it?
Who starts? Shall I?
Yeah, please do.
Well, there has been no, there's no watershed moment when you decide that I won't get married. I mean, at least in my case, it was not the case. It was not a conscious choice per se. It just happened. I just wanted it to, if at one point, if it were to happen, it would have happened if I had somebody coming up at that juncture. No, I didn't find an option that was, living up to the option of singlehood. So I chose to continue as it is. And I'm comfortable enjoying my singlehood, if you insist to call it that. But I enjoy the process. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you like to then call it? Coming from a person who is living it, I would love to know what term would you use or how would you define it?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even want to define it as a separate issue. But I'm just living my life. Okay. And living it on my terms. So I don't really think I'm defining myself with the singlehood. That's not a tag that I identify and call it as a label for myself. So I think singlehood would be a tag that somebody would call, and then acknowledging the fact that somebody is asking you to, hitch with another identity.
Okay. Yeah. Deepa?
Yeah, okay. In my case, I don't think it's very different from what Anviya just mentioned. But in my case, of course, the entire marriage institution and process was on when I was doing my MA, that was my post graduation. And somehow the process of getting into the concept of marriage, uh, meeting people for a particular, a process, I would say, this it was something that was not acceptable, in the sense it was something that was not my life. It would not, I would not put it as me being a part of it, because it was not a natural process. Uh, so after maybe meeting quite a number of people, it just happened that my thinking processes, or my as would say, as we would use, compatibility was not seen in any of these kind of relations. So that's why it just naturally happened that I happened to be away from the concept of marriage. And as Anuya rightly said, it is not the concept of singlehood. It is exactly what I want my life to be. So it is like, I'm painting my life the way I want it. With only people who actually matter to me. So I think, as rightly said, I would never put or use that tag of singlehood as well.
Dr. Aparna?
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably since my 10th standard, I had decided that I will not get married. Okay. Because I never wanted to be like on the second position. And I never liked secondary, you can say, status that is generally offered under the patriarchal system. And then, whenever there used to be any thoughts, like, whenever it comes to your parents, they're always worried, and then they're always like talking about your future and all that. But then probably I have fought several fights for being single, and so many, you can say, arguments. But then finally, what I feel is that what my PhD guide had told me once upon a time, that don't be a male hater. So obviously we are not male haters. We don't hate men. Only the thing is that when it comes to a relationship, uh, you need to have someone who would treat everything equal, and it is also vice versa. It's not always men treating women unequally, but it is also women treating them. So let us be very very neutral on gender. And so I was never interested in getting married, but I was really interested in adopting a child. So yes, so that's what.
Yeah. So,
Could I just add a couple of points here as well?
yeah,
While I was listening to this, I also realized that at one point there was this you have cousins who are of the same age who are also looking out for partners. You find a lot of this concept of compromise and adjustments that kept coming around. When you keep listening to these two terms around marriage, that put me on a back foot. I said, I mean, if I have to do it, it is something that I would do by choice, not on the basis of something that is going to be decided on the, that biological clock ticking and stuff that people make out to be. One. And the second point that I want to tell you is that I can call myself privileged. Privileged because I didn't have a direct pressure to get married. My parents and people who matter understood the fact that it is each one's journey and they would decide. I didn't have everyday fights. I can understand that there are girls who would find it extremely difficult if everyday fight at home makes their life miserable, pushes them into a journey where they would have to adjust and compromise. So I think I am grateful for the kind of background and upbringing that I have had, where I could make a choice of staying as I am. Yeah, that's it.
yeah. I think
Uh,
Deepa mentioned the fact that she went through a whole journey of meeting people. So that must have posed significant challenges, right? To say no. So how did you overcome that? Because clearly there was pressure from the house to get married. That's why you were meeting all these, men for so-called proposed marriage. Did we lose her?
Yeah, I think Deepa's dropped out.
Yeah, she joined.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
joined.
she'll join. Aparna, you also said you took a
Uh,
lot of advice
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. But like in my case also, it was like my parents obviously understood my point, but then their concerns were like how you're going to live alone, and then there should be someone, there should be some companion. So if I try to understand their position, they were obviously right, in their own way. But then I always used to tell them that fine, you are right in your own way, and yes, you have taken a very correct position. But then what I am saying is also a correct position, because I don't think that companionship lies just in getting married or just in marriage partners. Look, you have companions, who understand you, and these could be your friends. It could be of any age, any gender, and I'm fortunate to have formed such kind of a relations around. Like I have good friends who are men, and they definitely understand, like what when I'm trying to say something. So it was something that was like you. But what I feel that this kind of dialogue with your parents is needed, because then only there could be some sort of, you can say, thought process set in them. So later, even I could see, so they were not forcing me, they did not bring me any kind of marriage proposals. Okay, because I would threaten them that if you bring the marriage proposal, it will be your responsibility what happens the next. Okay, and so they were so like concerned ki fine that maybe we cannot take the risk. But then the fact is that they really understood that okay fine, I'm not interested in getting married. And I said fine. I mean, it's not something that everyone who has come to this life has to get married. There could be some different choices, and then obviously they respected the fact. But the deliberations, discussions, and negotiations helped me in understanding even my position better, that why I really don't want to get married. And also they really understood, and now when they would start advising the other you can say young people, they would say you can always take a choice. Like my father, he said before he passed away that don't compromise, Aparna, you be on your own. And that is something where probably I thought that yes, this is something, the kind of you can say change in the and they were modern. But then obviously it is the pressure of the society. It is these are the relatives and the friends, they keep on asking, and then they feel pressure. That is the case.
Yeah. So how does society react to single women in 40s?
Oh, we are extremely interesting to people. Our lives are everybody's business. They want to know how is it that you're holding up? What do you do on weekends? What do you do when you go back home? I mean, it's everybody's business then. They're like, nahi, bata nahi rahi
I
hai, bolna, what is happening? This is the tone that we hear.
Huh.
And it's maybe relatives, as Aparna said, but in my case, colleagues. So yeah, there was
where
extreme interest.
okay, just to continue on the same basis, the most popular question that I have been asked is the concept of how can you live alone? So I mean, I used to tell them that who says that I'm alone, and how does your spouse prove that you are not alone? So then it's like when I counter question that, it is when they realize that, oh, okay, this does make sense. So that is one of the questions that I would find anybody and everybody asking. And to word it differently as to what Ananya said, uh, we are always available according to the system.
Yeah. Deepa, going back to the question, I think you lost connection.
Yeah.
How did you, I mean, clearly there was pressure to conform to the societal norms. So how did you handle
Okay.
it at that time?
Societal norms, as in just as any girl would go through, there is this phase that the marriage comes in. Now, the issue was my parents are quite liberal. They have no hang-ups and issues about this. But it is, their extended family that they have that always pose, these different kinds of societal questions that they need to answer. So one thing that I had very clearly told my father, because it was from his side that this kind of a pressure was building. I had told him that if any questions are posed to you, put them directly to me. You don't have to answer it because the decision is mine. So let me handle the questions because it's only then that they will get the answers that they are looking for.
So did they
So so that
directly?
is pardon.
Did your relatives then ask the questions directly to you?
Oh yes, they did. The question was one was on the concept of alone. The other one was what will you do if your parents are not with you? There will be a time when now you have a family, but what happens when they are not there and things like that. I said I as a person don't need anybody. It is only because I have some kind of responsibilities that I need to share. There are certain things that I need to do in relation to my parents that I will be looking after them. Now, whether they go first or whether I go first, nobody knows. For all you know, they might still be there and I might go off first. Then what? So it is not the question of who is there with you or who's not there with you. It is a question of whom do you want to be a part of your life.
Yes.
So these were certain questions that it is any normal elder or family would have. Then slowly what happened was they started realizing that I'm very headstrong on why I have taken a decision and how I'm going to deal with it. It's not that I'm going to be brooding and sitting in a corner or getting into depression and not meeting people or will not be sociable and so on and so forth. That slowly they started realizing. I think by the age of 32 or 35, all my questions were stopped. So I
Okay.
think that was one of the biggest achievements that I had. And by the time I took the decision, and within 10 years' time, my parents, in fact, sided my decision and they said that good you're single and
Yeah.
good you didn't get into it. So I think that is my greatest achievement in life.
Yeah. Another question to all the three of you: have you ever faced kind of discrimination at family functions or social circles because of your single status?
No, not in the social circles, but yes, at work. At work, I'll tell you how. I'll cite an example, and it would probably underline the fact pretty clearly. It's not, see, pay parity is not the question, because with where we worked, there was not that pay parity was not the question. It was about what was assigned. So we had a colleague, I know, Deepa knows. We had a colleague who always got it easier because she had, now this happens within womanhood that we are trying to celebrate. We are finding that within that also. So when she got the easy way out, because she had two children who went to school, so the extra hours and extra work was usually distributed among single women. And I had a serious problem with that, which I raised out then. Because if you are taking the same pay packet, and I have absolute, I mean, if it were to be a one off situation, it's a different story. But if it's going to continue, I have a serious problem with the fact that you're taking an easy way out, you're habituated to leniency, and then you're actually doing disservice to the whole purpose of feminism that we are standing up for. And if I'm single by choice, I have a life, I can choose what I need to do with my time as well. My time is not because you have chosen to have children. So this was something that I had a very, very serious problem about, and I raised it out there. This happens not within the family circles. As I said, I've been blessed. But at work, yes, because men in senior positions don't want to take the tough choices when it is woman versus woman. These were things which are, these are undercurrents at work, and which do come forth very seriously out there. So yeah, I think that's my point.
Aparna, did you?
I don't think it was something kind of a discrimination, because probably it is something that I always believed in, that I present always myself as an individual. I also make other people to treat me as an individual, and if at all such kind of, you can say, but I don't really see, because I mean at the university when I see the profiles, the major profiles are actually these are the women leaders who are leading right now. And when I look at our honorable vice chancellor sir, I've seen always he is giving always space for women, that I could see like major positions. Now I'm handling the entire, you can say, green practices of the university. And I mean sir could have had many choices, but then I mean he's selecting, and that is something I really want to put it across, that at least at the workplace, no, and even at the individual friends, where I find the discrimination more is specifically those clothes circles, and this typical haldi kunku kind of a program meant for women. And then I always laugh at this, that they just can't decide my status now, whether I'm married or not married. Okay. And being a mother of a child now, now though there is a further confusion, so I'm so happy that I don't get any invitation for such programs only. And so in fact I take this as a very good, you can say, expression by their side, that they're not inviting me at all.
Yeah. Can you also share some common myths that are there about single women? And
Actually, the thing is that probably I live in a rural society. Okay, I live in Karchat. So there, rural people are like, once they accept a person, the way the person is, so they are like, so for the entire society here, I am their didi, like Tai. And so for me, being with the rural society, like I was thinking that it could be very challenging for me to establish myself as a mother of a single, like a child, like girl. But then I tell you, the way people have accepted it, and forget about that, I never used to be in my own society, I never used to visit people that way, because I used to always keep distance, because that if it is a single woman, unmarried women, so sometimes men think that, oh yeah, so when their wives are not there with them, they will come and talk and discuss. When their wives are there, they will just simply shy off, and I'm like, what rubbish. And then so I never used to really go and talk around. But then with my daughter Pihu, the scenario is completely different. And it's like Pihu is accepted the way she has been accepted. This is something very surprising. And probably she enters every house now, and it like causing a lot of embarrassment for me. But then it is like that. So it's quite interesting, because I was anticipating some different reactions, but then the reactions are so positive. It's very supportive. People phone me and tell me, see, if there is any problem, you please tell us, we will look after Pihu and all that kind of stuff, knowing that I'm struggling alone with all. My mother is also there with me, so I'm struggling at several fronts. So people would come and support. And probably the society where I'm staying, it's a mixed kind of a society, rural but little urban. But I'm really, really surprised with this kind of response.
yeah, you're thoroughly blessed, Aparna. I would say that's a
Seriously,
wonderful
seriously.
community to have around you.
Yeah, and this is Karjat, where we have been living like a community, where for years together, we are together, know each other. And the way my child is also blessed with, she has so many mamas and so many uncles and aunts and so many people. And that is something. One of my student is there, PhD scholar, so she has certainly decided to, she started one fine day, she started calling him papa. And then that was a kind of a new kind of a challenge I had. So I had to, like, I immediately called, his parents, that look, this is the scenario. So they were so cool. I said, fine, it's okay. And then after that, the next blunder was she started introducing everyone. Look at my papa, he's my papa. And I like, and even that kind of a fact has been accepted by everyone so nicely. And this is something a surprise. So as you said, I'm really blessed to have such people around me.
Yeah.
They're very
It,
positive.
it shows what if a community is actually accepting and,
Yes, yes,
support in what
yes.
beautiful relations can look like.
Yes, yes. And these are all beyond blood. These are all beyond blood. That is
Yes,
something very
that
interesting.
is the one beauty of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What about you, Anuya? Y- I mean, have you faced any kind of common myths people have about, like you said, your time? How are you using your time is one of the myths.
Yeah, that's been the only thing. I don't think I have had anyone commenting maybe behind my back, but nobody knowing how I am. I doubt if there was anyone who would tell me on my face that there was something wrong with my being single. But no, I don't think there was anything that I can think of right now about this. No.
Yeah. The next question is, of course, again related to financial independence, because that's a major factor for many women in choosing to be single. Okay. Not and For many women, because they may not have access to education or even jobs, may not be allowed to take on jobs. Being single may not be a choice that they can actually, choose for
Afford.
themselves. Yeah, afford and choose for themselves. So how did you guys, I mean, all the three of you manage your finances to, because that's a major part of staying independent, because you have to take care of yourself throughout your life. There is not going to be, I mean, your parents are there, of course, but beyond that, that your responsibility, financial responsibility is yours. I mean, there is no other support systems coming in. So how did you manage your secure your financial future, secure finances for yourself? Because this is something that many Indian women struggle with when it comes to making a choice of being single.
See, single, double, triple financial independence is required, full stop. Especially because it requires that kind of standing, it gives you that kind of negotiating possibility. A lot of times, I have seen women who are working and who find it extremely difficult because it's a shared account that they have, and the money is entirely withdrawn by the spouse. So there are times when I've seen women approaching their workplaces telling them, pay by cash in my hand a particular amount because I don't otherwise get any money. Now, this has nothing to do with your singlehood. This is just about your financial independence, irrespective of who you are, whether you have the responsibility of your parents or your own self or your children. Irrespective of that, you should have financial independence. No arguments. I don't think anyone can argue on that front. With regards to the choices, well, each to oneself. I had my father who would speak to me about it, and that's how I got advice from him and probably my a friend of his who happened to also look after my account. That's the only thing that I mean. I'm personally not very financially savvy per se, so I don't get into those the share market
Yeah.
because that is some part of the a little conservative, maybe you may call me, but I find that the market could be volatile and I find it a little risky for myself. So I don't indulge in shares myself, but if there's anyone who loves to do it, each to one's own choices, I would say. Yeah.
Deepa?
The, yeah, where I'm concerned, I think, I mean, being from a matriarchal background that we have, it has always been a fact that, irrespective of whether it is a male or a female, we normally have the concept of education and, job. Then third is where the marriage begins. So when I was, I mean, in my school, I remember when I was in my eighth, I had already started tutoring and earning my pocket money and my expenses for myself, whatever I want to do. So I think right from that time onwards, I have been handling finance and cash. So it was never a problem on that front. But as Anu rightly said, if you don't have a financial background or a financial stand, there are a lot of things that you have to let go and compromise. So, irrespective of your marital status, I think the concept that that a sense of independence that you get when you are earning your own finances and maybe like right now we are supporting. I mean, me and my sister, for that matter, we are supporting the family. So that sense of fulfillment that you get is not something that you can actually relate, and many women don't have that sense of satisfaction, fulfillment. Because as rightly said, even in my family, I have people who are into these joint accounts and all these different possibilities, and I can see the struggle that they have. So it is like I know somebody within my family itself who is well educated, well placed, having a job, but yet when it comes to finances, there is a lot of self doubt, and she actually has to, how do I put it, take permission from her spouse for this. Now, many a times when I have had a conversation with her, I have actually asked her, why don't you separate your finances? Because that is what is going to give you that kind of sense of independence. And I don't know. I mean, somehow that has not sunk in with her. So these kind of issues are there, but financial status, it gives you a different sense of independence and satisfaction. That is what I would say.
Aparna, you would like to share something?
Yeah, I think I agree with both of them. And we are fortunate enough to have this kind of education. Then we this kind of, you can say, government jobs, basically the regular jobs. But then those who are in other sectors, for them it is really difficult. And then the current situation is not really good.
Yeah.
And see the work participation rate of women is going down, and it's more of, you can say, these are the workers that are hardly having any kind of a job. So it becomes very difficult. It is for both the men and women that is emerging as a major challenge to have a to secure a proper job. And there is a lot of underemployment. So in this scenario it becomes really difficult. And the one who are helping me in my house, and I can see that someone who is a divorcee sent back home, so many situations. But then probably this financial literacy has to start from the school days only. Like how the women can secure
Yes.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there could also be some information in the form of like what can be done
Yeah.
for earning small amount of money for themselves.
Vijay,
I
just
think,
to add upon,
yeah.
most of the times the concept of marriage itself is based on the concept of finance.
Mhm.
It is the kind of financial dependency which is the main or one of the main causes for a marriage.
Marriage.
So
True.
what happens is, as I said, when in my case, since I was already having the concept of earning before even the marriage topic began in the family, I had a stand that I could take because I'm not financially dependent on anyone,
Hmm.
and I was very sure, once I started earning, that this would continue. I would not give this up for anything. So
Yeah.
whether it is parents or whether it is spouse or whether it is children or whatever in my future life, I would always have something which I could call mine.
Yeah.
That was something that I was very strong on even in the beginning. So I think marriage itself is based on one of these pillars where
Pillars.
finances come.
Uh, one more question, which is again, because again, marriage is also looked at as an emotional partnership, also because it gives you the emotional care. That's the concept behind it. So, as women who are single, what are the strategies you use for self care and emotional fulfillment?
I seriously went for REBT. That is the rational emotive behavioral therapy. Because being a teacher, it happens that you have to deal with so many cases. Counseling you have to go for, even if you are not a counselor. So I went for this particular therapy and the kind of a training, and then later on also explored many kind of, you can say, therapies and the ways of trying to understand what are you, what is within your control, what is beyond your control, and then how you can basically deal with some of the emotions. Because what happens is that when I say look at women, whether they are married or single, you will find that they continue. I mean, I see sometimes very elderly women, and they talk about some incident happened say at the age of 20. So just imagine that incident they carry say for the entire life, and they continue to have that kind of a pressure in their mind that okay, that was the time when I was treated like that. And I'm like, oh my god, I mean, how come you can continue that stress? And probably I think emotional resilience is something that has to be built in, and there is a need to really go for such kind of a training program, such kind of, you can say, exposures. For example, there were recently I attended one refresher course where there were a lot of sessions on from psychology background. Many people were from psychology background, and they were talking about say like what is verbal violence and how you can actually improve yourself. Because probably I think the most violence we do is to ourselves,
Yeah. True.
the most greatest violence. And in what sense? Either in continuously like monitoring ourselves, judging ourselves, like what I did, this, that. We don't look at people. I said, so this is what I keep on telling. So is it fine, first go and look yourself in the mirror, ask yourself what is the problem, and then try to deal with that problem and seek help. Well, the problem is that we don't like to seek help, because then we think that okay, fine, if I share my experience, then my privacy and so many other, you can say, dimensions. So there is a need, because single women, say for example, for me, when my mother, say for last 1 year, she was not at all good. So for me, it was such a major kind of, you can say, emotional stress and like that. But then because I had this training, I could deal with it. When someone is trying to point out at your character for no reason, that also you need to tell yourself that look, it is what the person is, and it is his garbage or her garbage. I'm not supposed to take the garbage. Okay, I know what it is, so I'm not going. So I tell that I'm not going to take his garbage, her garbage, and I tell openly nowadays that keep your garbage to yourself, don't give it to me. I'm not going to accept. So all these kinds of, you can say, trainings you have to give to your mind, then only it is possible to deal. Because there are so many people talking in so many ways. The most important thing is that in people say that you in Hindi actually एक बोलते कि ये कान से सुनो, ये कान से छोड़ दो. But I always say that there is a brain in between, तो सुनो ही मत. That is the best one. Don't listen. Ignore. Complete ignorance. Because you know that what you are. Once you know what you are, okay, be what you are and be proud of what you are. That's it. And that only gives the confidence to deal with all these incidences.
You know what Aparna has said? Yeah, I mean, that was where she's like talking about proper training that she has undergone. But one part where we tend to barricade ourselves, a lot of times we barricade ourselves when there should be none. I'll give you simple examples in day to day lives. I want to watch a movie, or I want to go out and eat. A lot of times we find it extremely difficult. We, as in single women, I'm taking it into a category now. We need to break that barrier. The moment you break it, a lot of times that self care emerges by itself. When you start eating on your own, I mean, you enjoy a particular place, you don't need to actually start begging for company. You have your own company, you are good enough. If you want to go watch a movie, you don't have to align with other people's time, you could go on your own. This is my strategy. I mean, if I feel like doing it, I do it. Irrespective of, I mean, I haven't done the training that Aparna has, but this was a conscious choice. I mean, it's only a barrier that you need to break. Thereafter, there's no shame, there's no hesitation, there is no apprehension. There is no doubt whether people are going to wonder how is this single woman coming here, why is this that she's alone. I mean, I prefer to be that way. There should not be any doubt, and the doubt comes in from within, as Aparna has very rightly said, that a lot of violence that we do is unto ourselves. So I believe we need to process it first, and the moment we understand what we want and we work along it, I think it simplifies the matter. We complicate it unnecessarily.
Yeah, in my case, I think handling emotions was never a problem because I love the skin that I live. So basically, the concept that self-acceptance and not looking outside for validation is something that I have been living in. Maybe because my grandmother was like that, my mom was like that. As I said, I come from a matriarchal family, so women are strong. So the only thing is they don't know how to use their strength. So for me, the concept of somebody telling me that you should be doing this because society needs it and things like that was something which was very unnatural. And I would always want an explanation as to why I should do it. Do you want me to do it because I should be having the herd mentality, or do you want me to do it for a genuine purpose? So this kind of validation is not something that I have looked for at all. And I never go by what they say. It is always the concept of what I believe in and whether I believe that concept, whatever the concept and ideal might be, as right or wrong. So another thing is you are always judged, whether you like it or not. But what you do with the judgment is your choice.
But
So for
judged
me,
you
that is
are
always
whether you're married, whether you're not married, whether you choose to have
exactly,
children, not
exactly.
have children, whether you choose to probably separate from a spouse. There are going to be so many of these judgments coming your way, whether you're single or not, anyway. So exactly, I mean, you
And
decide whether. Sorry.
yeah, no, and to add on to what Anthea is saying, even the so-called choices that we are making are not our choices. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but it's not our choices. When we are told to get married, you will never support, or rather, they will never support love marriage, but arranged marriage is support. Why? Because they are choosing the families whom we have to meet, right? So it's not my decision. Okay, fine, we do that. In-laws and acceptance of in-laws with me as a daughter-in-law or as a daughter. Now that depends on my fate as such. So there again, it's not my decision. Then they need to tell me when I have to have a kid, when the body is mine. So there again, it's not my decision. So, I mean, where does your decision lie, and where does your, your self acceptance come in where marriage is concerned? I mean, at least around 90% of women are facing this problem, because of which they are unsatisfied, they feel incomplete, even though they are married, they have a spouse, they have children, they have their own family. So, I think I'm way better than any of them.
Yeah. Uh, do you think that India is becoming more accepting of women choosing to remain single?
I
Aparna's
think women are.
yeah, Aparna's story definitely looks like one
Yes,
where yes, it's a possibility.
I think women are
definitely.
becoming more resilient. Women choosing, because I know my workplace, our workplace, had a lot of single women who chose to remain single,
Yeah.
and it
Yes.
was a choice that they made, and very strong women at that. So I think none of us ever wondered whether we would be accepted or not. If we were not to be accepted, so be it. So I
Correct.
don't know whether India is becoming more accepting, or whether increasingly women care less, because either way it's something that we are going to get. The hard end of the stick is something that we are going to get either way, so we might as well choose which one we want. Another thing is, it's, I think, a global trend And increasingly with the new generation, it's going to be an interesting aspect where people see, we are choosing our singlehood, if you want to call it that. The future generations, whatever you may call, Gen Z, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, whatever you want to call them, they are shirking responsibility. They are shirking commitment. My question was not about shirking commitment. My choice was regarding who I am as an individual. Whereas here we are postponing the responsibility that we want to take, whatever it may be. I mean, it changes from with every single year and with every new experience coming our way. We would find different definitions of singlehood coming up. So, India has got to be accepting. The world has no choice. It's something that we would have to take in. I mean, it's something like, I mean, we didn't ask India whether you would be accepting of same-sex relations. The verdict made us do it. I mean, we don't need a verdict to say that that a single woman can assert her presence in this world. I don't need a verdict for that.
Aparna?
Yeah, I mean, what Anuya says is exactly what I also feel, that, probably you don't need, the acceptance. You don't need people to accept that you are single or whatever you are saying. In fact, in my entire life, I have never bothered people, and I've never bothered about the society, because which society you should bother? A society that is having some basic standard, you can say gender related understanding, and the kind of understanding, vis-a-vis social relations and all. If the society is such where, there is no such understanding, and then there are so many now, forces that are shaping the understandings, looking at women in a very, very different, you can say, way. Why should we bother about such society? If the society is something that is mature enough to really guide us, then we should bother. Why should we bother? I never bothered for people, like how they are looking at me. And I'm telling you another thing, that people will actually go on criticizing, people will say so many things, that is fine. But once they know that, okay, fine, there is something, some use of me in their life, they will definitely come and talk so sweet. So it's a human beings is a selfish gene. Okay, and the present contemporary societies are driven with this selfishness. They are also not bothered who is what. They just want their things to be done. That's it. So I don't think we require any kind of acceptance. Okay, we have chosen our path, and we are very happy with the way we are, and probably they have to accept it. So whether there is any kind of, if they want they can accept, if they don't want they can't accept, but then fine, it's okay. But definitely such kind of a social space is getting created, because probably some of us are setting the narratives, and many students come and tell me, ma'am, even I want to adopt a child, I also want to stay single. I said, look, this is a very difficult path, because you're not choosing the conventional path, where you have lot of you can say convenience. It's convenience of what, being a female, like just show a very kind of a sad face to a man, just to have a seat in the local train, and then the men will have that kind of a sympathy, not empathy, and they will offer you a seat. Or maybe you are claiming a women's seat in a bus when you are strong enough and you are asking an elderly to get up from the seat. I don't think that is something required. If I am an individual, I don't really need even such kind of a favors. Yes, there is a huge section of women who require such kind of help, but the women who don't require, they should at least learn to be an individual. There is a problem. I've always find women always trying to show off their womanhood, use their womanhood to get certain things, and this is something really, really offending for me. Like whenever there would be some work and staying little late in the office, they will immediately start saying, so no, I have something to do at back home, my in-laws, my husband, my children, and all that kind of stuff. Now for me, even I can say that even I have a mother, I have a daughter, and all that. And then the point is that if you say you are equal to men, then you should not come up with these excuses. And women use these excuses, very well, and that is something very, very irritating to me. If you think that you are in equal position, then be in equal position. You don't need to give excuses for not working. You don't need to give excuses for not working like so-called men. Men don't work. They just spend time. I've seen 10 to 6, 3 times they will go for tea in the canteen or have lunch.
All right. Now I open up the discussion for our uh, viewers. Anybody wanting to ask anything of our panelists? Are there any questions? All right. I think we kind of asked most of the questions, I guess. Yeah. So as we wrap up this insightful discussion on singlehood and women in a patriarchal society, one thing that is clear is being single is not a limitation, but a choice. Journey of self-discovery, strength, and resilience. All our panelists are definitely tremendously resilient to take on the society and decide to keep their individuality in place. Our panelists have shared their experiences of challenging social norms, building financial independence, and nurturing emotional well-being, proving that singlehood is a fulfilling and empowering as any other life path that you take. No life path is wrong. This is just one more option available to you to lead your life. As we celebrate Women's Day, let's challenge these outdated perceptions and create a society where women's worth is not associated with her marital status, but by her choices, achievements, and individuality. To all the women embracing singlehood, whether by choice or by circumstances, know that your journey is valid, powerful, and an inspiration to many, just like these three women, wonderful women are. Thank you to all our panelists for their candid insights and to our audience for engaging with us today. Let's continue these conversations and work towards a more inclusive and accepting world. Happy Women's Day. Thank you, everyone,
Happy
for
Women's Day.
Bye.
Bye.